I have heard about predestination. Can you explain what it means? Is it biblical? This could be a lengthy sermon series, actually. Let me try to boil it down as best I can anyway. The Bible does talk about both, the words that are used are usually in our English Bibles are predestination and election. Let me say this first of all, that predestination is most often used speaking of God's plan for us to become like Jesus. So we are predestined to be conformed to the image of His Son. So usually predestination is that's what His plan for us is. We are predestined to become like Jesus, and that's His goal for us. Election is usually used in regarding our salvation, that we're referred to as the elect of God. The word elect simply means choice, that we were chosen by God. In fact, it's closely related to the word for the church, ecclesia, which is the chosen ones. And so as a church, we are God's choice. Now, how this fits into God being up in heaven and predetermining who's going to get saved and then leaving out those that aren't, and we get into all kinds of fallout conversations like this. I try to stick real close to what the Bible says without trying to make it into some kind of a human system and just get back to what the Bible says. I do know that the Bible does say that God is not willing that any should perish, that God doesn't want anybody to be lost. I know that the Bible says that salvation is available to us if we'll respond to His grace. I know all of that. And I also know that the Bible says that there are some that He has chosen, that I'm not saved because of my own efforts or because I came up with this brilliant idea of having faith, that faith in and of itself was a gift that God gave me. I'm able to believe because God enabled me to be able to believe. I know all those things. How I can put all this stuff together, I'm not entirely sure. And a couple of thoughts here that might help is, first of all, evangelism, or getting the gospel out and how to be saved. That's clear. All that's clearly explained in the Bible. Election, predestination, that's not explained. It's spoken of in order for us to be thankful for what God has given to us, but it's not explained. That tells me something. That election and predestination, that's God's business because He didn't explain it. Evangelism, my responsibility to respond to His grace for salvation, that is explained. That's my business. Election is God's business. I'm going to leave that with Him. Evangelism, salvation, I'm supposed to respond to Him. The gospel, that's my business. So let's try to stick with that. Let's let God take care of His stuff, and we'll take care of our stuff. And just in closing, I love the story about Augustine, who was trying to put together the free will of man and the choice of God and the sovereignty of God, and trying to figure out how can we put all this together. He was walking along the Mediterranean Sea, contemplating these things, and trying to figure it out, and he was frustrated. And there was a little boy who was digging a hole in the sand by the sea. And he stopped and he said, "Son, what are you doing?" And the boy said, "I'm digging a hole." And he says, "Well, what for?" "I'm going to empty the sea into my hole." And Augustine just kind of chuckled as he walked on, thinking the little boy thinks he's going to empty the whole Mediterranean Sea into his hole. And he realized, that's what I'm trying to do with God. I'm trying to take all this stuff about God, I'm trying to empty it into my little brain, this little hole here. We can't do that. So when it comes to election and predestination, that stuff, let's let God take care of that. In the meantime, we've got a job to do to get the gospel out. We're responsible to respond to what He has revealed to us, to receive Christ, and respond to tell other people. And we're responsible to tell other people. Let's stick with that stuff.